Hi, in this video this series of videos we're going to be working through a GCSE paper. Please do stop the video, have a go at each of the questions, then compare your solutions. Each of the videos is going to be about 20-30 minutes or so. It should give you about an hour's worth of fairly focused revision. If you're not sure about anything, always add a comment. I'll come back to you and I'll look forward to seeing you inside the video.
Hi, so in this video we're going to be looking at the November 2019 and it's the higher tier paper 2 for Edexcel. So please do stop the video, have a go at each of the questions. So we're going to start with question number 1, which is a fairly traditional frequency polygon type question, and it says that this particular frequency polygon has been drawn for 50 potatoes on this particular graph, and there are three things actually that are wrong, but we're being asked to write down 2 things. Well, the first thing is that she shouldn't join the bottom line. So if I just put join the bottom line, so what we mean by that is this line along the bottom here shouldn't be joined. Okay, I think the other thing is a little bit harder to spot perhaps, is that if we look at this first point here, well, that's been incorrectly plotted because it should actually be 15 to 6. Okay, so unfortunately it's been plotted as 15 to 8. So if I just put on here point 1 has been incorrectly plotted, and that would be absolutely fine for the 2 marks. I will just mention, however, there is a third thing, is that there is no labelling on the y-axis. So you could actually get away with the frequency label not added, and that would be perfectly fine as well. So you've got 2 out of those 3 things would be fine. Okay, let's move on then to question number 2, which is length of a pencil. Is that correct to the nearest millimetre? Error intervals are coming up quite a bit actually. I do see them in quite a lot of different papers, not just Edexcel but other ones as well. But basically, to round up, you're going to round up to from 127.5, which is the lowest amount it can possibly be, so it gets to 128 as the correct to the nearest millimetre, and then the other side it's going to be less than 128.5. okay, pretty much that's the answer to that particular question. Okay, let's move on then to question number 3, which is a ratio question. Tom and Adam have a total of 240 stamps. The ratio of the number of Tom stamps and number of Adam stamps is 3 to 7. So let's just have a look at that. So we've got Tom to Adam in the ratio 3 to 7. So it basically means if they had 10 stamps, then Tom would have 3 and Adam would have 7, but they haven't. They've got 240, which is actually 24 times bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply each of these numbers by 24 as well. That's going to give me 72 and 168. So in reality, Tom has got 72 stamps and Adam has got 168. Okay, so Tom buys some stamps and then their ratio changes in the ratio now to 3 to 5, but there's still the same quantity of stamps. So let's have a look at that. So Tom to Alan, and we've got 3 to 5, which is basically 8 stamps. Oh no, it's not. It's actually 240, which is 30 times bigger. So I'm going to multiply each of the numbers by 30. So that's therefore means that Tom has 90 stamps and Adam has 150. So the question is, how many stamps does Tom buy from Adam? Well, Tom must buy the difference between 90, take away what he had before, which was 72, so therefore he must have bought 18 stamps, and that would be the answer to this particular question. Okay, hopefully that's okay for you. There is a playlist and some questions on 3-minute maths which are very similar to this sort of question, so please do let me know and I'll put a link in the comments. Okay, let's have a look then at question number 4. Each person in a fitness club is going to get a free gift. Stan is going to order the gifts. Okay, takes a sample. So this is a stratified sample type question where basically we've got 50 people out of 700 in the club that are expressing a preference for a bag or a towel or whatever it might be. So it says work out how many sports bags that Stan should order. So let's have a look at that. Well, if we're saying that 17 out of 50 people, which was the sample, then that's going to be of the 700 people that are actually in the fitness club, which is going to be 238. Okay, and therefore Stan should order 238 sports bags, and that would be the answer to that particular question. Okay, and then finally it says write down any assumptions you made and explain how this could affect. Now this is unfortunately you're going to have to suffer with my particular writing, but this is a very standard 1 mark type question. I'm sure you appreciate they have to achieve 80 marks on the paper, so they will slot in these sort of interpretive questions. You would write something like the people in the sample are representative of the gym members. Okay, now if you want to expand that a little bit more, you could talk about something like, if you wanted, age, gender, okay, length of membership. So it's that sort of thing. That the problem with using a stratified sample is you're only asking a very small proportion of the full 700, so therefore you've got to make sure that you get a very good representation. Okay, let's move on then to question number 5. Here are 6 graphs, and it says write down the letter of the graph that could have the equation, and we're looking for y equals x cubed. Okay, it's one of those questions that you kind of need to, you could work through if you wanted to. They're worth 1 mark, but by process of elimination we'd be looking for that to graph number F, which is going to be this one here. And then it says the letter of the graph that has y equals 1 over x. Well, actually that's going to be this one, D, and it's the answer then to the question, and that's pretty much it really. And again, if you want to feed in some numbers, then you could do that and you could sort of work out values of x and values of y. Okay, let's move on then to question number 6. Again, this is a very typical type question. It's a very good representative paper, this particular paper. So the nth term of a sequence is that, the nth term of a different sequence is that. Now one of the things that you can spot with this is that this is an increasing sequence, and this is a decreasing sequence. So at some point there is a number that will be common to both sequences. Now this is one of those questions where it just takes a little bit of kind of grinding your way through. So you got 2n squared minus 1, and if I add in the value of 1, it's going to be 2 times 1 squared minus 1, so the first number in the sequence would be 1. Let's have a look at 40 minus n squared. So again, I'm looking at the first number in the sequence, and that's going to be 40 minus 1 squared, which is going to be equal to 39. So that's the first number in the sequence. Let's look at the second number in the sequence, 2 squared minus 1. That's going to equal 7. And again, with this one is 2 squared, take away from 40, that's going to be 36. Okay, now it seems like this thing's going to go on forever, so I'm going to just try and work my way through it. And we've got the third number in the sequence for both of them is going to be 17 for 2n squared minus 1 and 31 for the second sequence. Okay, then we've got fourth number in the sequence is actually, guess what, 31. Okay, that's brilliant. So therefore, without too much effort, we found our number. If I wanted to, I could carry on just a little bit more just to prove it. Okay, so the first sequence it's going to increase, the second sequence I know it's going to be below 31, therefore I can write that 31 is common to both, and that would be the answer to that particular question. Okay, please do stop the video, have a go at each of these questions, and then compare your solutions. Okay, let's move on then to question number 7. With these, you can put them directly into a calculator. I'm not so sure about that. I tend to prefer to write the calculation differently to the standard form, and I just find it a little bit easier to visualize in my head what's going on. So if we look at the first calculation, I'm going to get 3.42 divided by 7.5, which is 0.456, and then the second calculation is going to be 10 to the minus 7 divided by 10 to the minus 6. So don't forget, I'm going to have a subtraction, but I've got minus 7 minus 6, so that's going to become a positive. So it's going to be minus 7 plus 6, which is going to be 10 to the power of minus 1. Okay, that's good enough for 1 mark, but it's not in standard form. You need to change it to 4.56. Remember, the standard form, the first number has to be a whole number, and I've got to move the decimal point 1 more place, so it's 10 to the power of negative 2. Okay, let's move on then to question number 8. It is a very quick move through these particular papers. Hopefully, please do stop the paper, have a go, or stop the video, have a go at the question, compare your solution. Okay, please don't just passively watch these videos. It's much better if you get actively involved with them. Okay, so number of days it'll take to build a house is given by that. Ali's company will take 40 days to build a house. Okay, so let's have a look at how many workers she's going to need. So I'm going to say Ali is going to equal to, I'm using the formula, D equals 720 over 90. She's got 40 days, so it's going to be 40 equals 720 over N. And therefore, if I want to find the number of workers, N is going to equal 720 divided by 40. So in Ali's company, she's going to need 18 workers. Okay, let's have a look then in Haley's company. Okay, I'm going to use exactly the same formula. And I'm going to write that as, in this particular case, she takes 30 days. So 720 divided by N. N is going to be equal to 720 divided by 30. So in her particular case, she's going to need more workers. She's taking less time, therefore she'll need more help. So 24 workers. Okay, and how many more? The difference between the two is going to be 6 workers, and that would be the answer to that particular question. Okay, so please do, if you're not sure about anything, add a comment below. I will always come back to you. Let's have a look then at the next one. Now the next one is a little bit tricky because we've got a couple of things that we need to work through, and also it's going to be slightly tricky on the video, but what we're saying from the information is the total surface area of the cube is equal to the total surface area of the cuboid. So what we need to do is we need to find the total surface area of the cuboid first, and then we'll be able to work out the volumes of the cubes and the cuboid. Okay, so let's have a look at the total surface area. Now, I'll try to kind of do my best to give you as much space as I possibly can, but I'm going to look at total surface area of cuboid. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these two end pieces. So that's going to be 6 times 8. And there's 2 of them, and if I put that in my calculator or otherwise, I'm going to get 96 centimeters square. Okay, then I'm going to look at the 2 side pieces. That's this side and this side on the other side there, and that's going to be 18 times 6 multiplied by 2, and that's going to give me 216. And then finally I'm going to look at the top and the bottom. I'm just going to move this up very slightly, and that's going to give me 18 times 8 multiplied by 2, and that's going to give me 288. Now when I add all of those sides together, it means that the surface area of the cuboid is 600 centimeters squared. Okay, hopefully that's all right. Then it says the total surface area of the cube is equal to the total surface area of the cuboid. Okay, so therefore, if I'm looking at the area of the cube, then it means that because a cube has got 6 sides, the area of each side of the cube is going to equal 600 divided by 6, so therefore each side must be 100 centimeters squared. Now I need to work out the volume of the cube and the volume of the cuboid. So to get the volume of the cube, I need to know the length of each side. Okay, well, if I know that the actual area is 100, then that's going to be basically 10 times 10, so it's 10 centimeters in length. Okay, so I've got all the component parts I need now to be able to work out the volume of the cube and the volume of the cuboid. So the first thing is, if I look at the volume of the cuboid, well, that's going to be equal to the area multiplied by the depth, which is going to be equal to 6 times 8 multiplied by 18, and therefore that's going to give me 864 centimeters cubed. I'll just very briefly go back up to the image. I've got the area, which is 6 times 8, and then I'm going to multiply it by the depth, which is 18, and that's going to give me the 864. Okay, now let's have a look then at the volume of the cube, okay, which I'm going to do exactly the same. So I've got the volume of the cube. Now remember, all the edges are the same with a cube, and therefore it's fairly straightforward. It's going to be 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10, which is going to equal to 1,000 centimeters cubed. So unfortunately, Janet, who said the volume of the cube is equal to the volume of the cuboid, is incorrect. So I'm going to put no. Janet is incorrect. Okay, all right, hopefully that's all right for you. We're going to move on to question number 10. I'm going to try and arrange for about 20 minutes on this particular video, and this should give you about an hour's worth of fairly focused revision. Okay, question number 10, we're being asked to make k the subject of the formula. The big problem I've got there is I've got a square root sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides. That's going to give me y squared equals 2m minus k. Now the next thing I've got is I've got a negative value of k, which I don't really want. So I'm actually going to take this over to the left-hand side by adding k to both sides. And I'm going to get y squared equals 2m, I beg your pardon, I'm going to get y squared plus k equals 2m. Okay, and therefore if I then take my y squared to the other side, I'm going to get k on its own, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So therefore, to answer the question, k equals 2m minus y squared, and that would be the answer to question number 10. Okay, let's move on then to question number 11. And question number 11, Megan is growing some potatoes. Okay. And this is a box plot of the potatoes that Megan's bought. And then it says, Megan says that half her potatoes weigh less than 50 grams each. Okay, well, what we mean with the box plot is we actually go for the median value, and anything less than the median value is 50% of the potatoes, or half the potatoes. So the answer, unfortunately, she's not correct. So no, the median is 57 grams, which is this mark over here. Okay, and if you want, you can put half of her potatoes weigh less than 57 grams, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, and then very typically with box plots, we do have this kind of comparison type question. So we've got the box plot for Megan, and then we've also got a box plot for Amy, who also grows potatoes, and we're being asked to compare the distribution. Okay, well, hopefully you can see from the actual pictures that the median weight for Megan is 57, and the median weight for Amy is going to be a little bit less. It's actually 42. So I'm going to put in here that Amy's potatoes, if I have a lower median, that's perfectly good. A lower median, and I'm going to say it's 42, which is this one here, 42 grams. And I can, if you want, in there I'll put Megan is 57 grams. Okay. I think the other thing I would say is that the interquartile range for Megan is smaller. So this is the interquartile range, which is this length here. Okay, so if I put in here that Amy has a smaller, and this is the mid 50%, and it's called the interquartile. I'll just put IQ range. Okay, and hers is actually 51 minus 35, which equals 16 grams. And then just by comparison, I'm going to put that Megan IQ range is 65 minus 39, which equals 26 grams. So her range is much bigger. So the middle 50% of Megan's potatoes are much heavier than the middle 50% of Amy's potatoes. Okay, and we can see that on the graph here that the actual interquartile range box there is much larger, or much longer. Okay, so hopefully that's all right for you. Let's move on then to question number 12, which I think will probably be the last question on this particular video. We'll give it a go and see what happens. Now, this is one of those questions where it just takes a little bit of working through, and what we're being asked to do is really calculate the angle EAD, which is this one here. So please do stop the video and have a go. Okay, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to concentrate on triangle number 1. Okay, now what we've got on triangle number 1 is a right angle triangle, which is brilliant because we can use SohCahToa. And we're told that this is 40 degrees, and we're told that the hypotenuse is 8.6. So what we're really looking for is BD, which is the opposite to angle of 40 degrees. I've already mentioned the hypotenuse is going to be 8.6, and that means the adjacent is the angle at the bottom, the line at the bottom, which is DC. Okay, so which ratio are we going to use? Well, we need to find the opposite, so I'm going to use the sine ratio, and I'm going to say the sine of 40 degrees is equal to the opposite, which is the information I'm looking for, divided by 8.6. Okay, now when I put that into my computer, into my calculator, I'm going to get sine 40 multiplied by 8.6. That's going to give me this awful long 5.5279 ... equals the opposite. And that's fine by me, because what I know now is that E is the midpoint. So basically this length here is going to be half of the 5.5279, so on. Okay, so I can use that information because I've got another right angle triangle, which is going to be EAD. Now just bear with me, hopefully on the screen it'll be alright. So let's have a look, and I've got this other right angle triangle here, and this is going to be ED. Now ED is going to be a half of 5.5279. The adjacent is 4.4, which we're actually given, and we're being asked to work out X, and that would be then angle EAD. So I'll just go back to the main picture there, and hopefully you can see that I've drawn that relatively accurately. And again, because it's a right angle triangle, I can use SohCahToa again. Now which one am I going to use? Well, I know the opposite is going to be ED, which is the half of 5.52, so I'm okay with the opposite. And I don't know the hypotenuse, but I do know the adjacent. So if I know the opposite and the adjacent, I'm going to use the tan relationship. So what I actually have is the tan of x, which is what I'm looking for, is going to equal to, and if I write answer over 2, that's basically left in my calculator as this huge number all divided by 2, and then it's going to be divided by 4.4, which is going to be the adjacent. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of building in the error and it's working through for me. Now don't forget, I don't need the tan, I'm interested in the actual value of the angle. So if you use the shift key on the on your calculator, you're going to get tan to the power of -1, and just use the answer, and that will give you then 32.136 ... and that's going to be in degrees. So therefore angle EAD, which is what we're looking for, is going to equal 32.1 degrees, and that would be correct to 1 decimal place. Okay, I hope that video has been useful to you. Please do let me know in the comments if you're not sure about anything. I can always put a link to another playlist or another example in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you inside the next video.